to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. It's Power Talk Friday. Rachael Bozsik joins us today. Rachael is an international keynote speaker and thought leadership coach who helps female entrepreneurs in the lifestyle space build personal brands. Sounds like our kind of lady, if you ask me, right? Rachael helps women position themselves as world-class thought leaders and public figures via press, paid speaking, and partnerships. Her clients include award-winning interior designers, HGTV personalities, and internationally recognized creatives. Through her own work as a professional speaker, she has empowered close to 100,000 women on the stages of Harvard Business School, Design Influencers Conference, ASID New York City, IIDA, and Spanx headquarters. Rachael has been recognized as an elite brand positioning expert by Forbes, Glamour, and Business Insider. Another leader in the elite branding and luxury service category is Monogram Appliances. That's right. Monogram is dedicated to creating appliances with the highest quality materials, performance, and owner experience. And I want you to know that you were invited to join me and Monogram on March 31st, 2021 for a virtual event where I will be talking with executive chef John Liddell while he is doing a live demonstration of the new Pro range, okay? So you get to listen and watch as John explains how to attract, understand, and successfully work with luxury clients, okay? The bonus is that you will see this live demonstration of this new Pro range. The idea is that we want to figure out who else is selling to luxury clients? And of course, it's Monogram, but who else is servicing them? And who else but a personal chef, right? So that's what this conversation is going to be. His take on understanding what's valuable about the Monogram appliances, why they appeal to the luxury market, and his take on the most successful way to attract and work with them. So I hope that you will join us. The link to sign up, it's free, is in the show notes. And the first 10 people who sign up and attend will receive my most recent book, A Well-Designed Business, The Power Talk Friday Experts Volume 2. We're also going to be raffling off to those in attendance copies of my other 2 books, as well as a coupon for $300 off any LuAnn University course, which you feel like signing up for. So we have in April still left the launch of Scaling Your Window Treatment Business to $1 million. Taught by Vida. And then this summer, we will be ramping up again July 5th for the next round of LuAnn University courses. So you have to be with us live at the event. But I hope that you will think about coming and head over to the show notes for the registration link. All right. Now, let's see what Rachael has to say about getting your name out there, about gaining credibility so that you can charge your worth and build the business that you want. Hi, Rachael. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business.
Thanks for having me, LuAnn. I'm excited about today.
I am too. We've just been getting to know each other for a few minutes, and you are like a firecracker. I am psyched for this interview. You have a really cool business. It's sort of PR, sort of guru, sort of like, I don't know, wise, sage, seer, lots of things. But, I've learned a little bit that there is a germ of a story where it started from. And I said, no, don't tell me. I want to hear it on air. So tell us where and how you came to be doing what you're doing now, Rachael.
Sure. Well, I guess the best place to start is to share what I do now and then kind of work backwards from there. So I work with female entrepreneurs, specifically women that are in the lifestyle space. I work with tons of interior designers, fashion designers, event planners, and I help women with service-based business build really powerful personal brands that are very strong and lucrative and money generating. So basically, I help female entrepreneurs become positioned experts and thought leaders in their field through the three P's. So that's press, paid speaking, and partnerships. So think, a piece of press in Arc Digest or even something local. Think a paid speaking event, whether it's High Point Market or maybe you're speaking at, Inman Luxury Real Estate Summit in Beverly Hills. So you want to partner, right, with really incredible real estate agents that work with your dream clients all day, every day, or maybe a partnership you want to work, end goal with Rizzoli and have a coffee table book. So that's the type of work that I do with female entrepreneurs. And background, kind of how I got started on this. So I went to High Point University, furniture capital of the world. I'm sure all of your women are attending market, right? And I double majored in entrepreneurship and luxury interior design. So I had a really unique opportunity early on to be interning and working with Hooker and Phillips Collection and Rochambeau. And when I graduated, I was doing freelance work for all of them. I was doing book signings and organizing them with Bobby Burke and Carson Kressley and Young Ha and Carlton Barney, doing their book signings, doing events and working on partnership deals. And really early on, I noticed that there were other students, college women at High Point University, interior design majors that wanted these quote unquote dream jobs with these, design firms and manufacturers, but they were confused on how to get there. They were super, super qualified, right? Like they had the GPA, they had the leadership experience, but they had a really hard time positioning their personal brand to be chosen, qualified, and also hired. So I started a personal brand consulting agency, right when I graduated college, around graduation time, from my college dormitory. And that company was called the Brand Girls. And I ran the Brand Girls for 6 years. And over the years, we worked with over 100,000 college women. And I was selected to speak and requested to educate at over 75 universities. So
Wow.
everywhere from Harvard Business School to UCLA and everywhere in between. And what became incredibly interesting to me was that we as women, we're so brilliant, we're so qualified, we have something that's incredibly unique, but we have a hard time selling ourselves. And over the years, I was positioning myself as a thought leader in my niche. I had over 40 national press outlets. So everywhere from Forbes, Teen Vogue, Glamour, I was partnering, multiple big six-figure partnerships with Kendra Scott, L'Oreal, Vera Bradley, and I was, working with Oprah's Leadership Academy. And what was really interesting was along the way, my girlfriends who were also female entrepreneurs, they were event planners, they were interior designers, right? Like we had that shared love for the lifestyle arena. They were saying to me, like, Rachael, like, how do I get my brand featured in these publications? Like, my gosh, what a feature in Vogue would do for my business. It would allow me to double my rates. Or, I would love the opportunity to be speaking on industry podcasts and, really connecting with my ideal target market. How do I do this? So I decided to make a pivot a few years ago. I felt from a mission perspective, I could reach thousands and thousands of college women a year, or I could do the work that I'm doing now, which is working with 4, female entrepreneurs a month and really helping them reach their thousands, helping them, reach the sales they want to reach, and really helping them use their special factor and make sure that it's visible and they're well paid for that work. So that's the work that I'm doing now. And it's a lot of fun. I've actually worked with a few of your podcast guests. So
you have. Who have you worked for? You have to tell us.
Yeah, so I recently coached Kathy Kuo, who I love, love, love.
Oh, it's a long time since I've spoken to Kathy.
Yeah.
I think she might have been the first year or two.
I love Kathy. So I actually spoke at Design Influencers Conference
Oh,
recently. Yeah.
so you
And
know Adam and Luba.
I love Adam and Luba, and I met a lot of, I'm sure, your podcast listeners at the event. So I was working with Kathy Kuo, I was working with Tina Triggs, Lucy Penfield, and I just have had, the honor to really support these women. And the work that's so exciting to me is like they're brilliant at what they do, right? Like just like your listeners, it's like they're brilliant at styling and managing a project, but it's like you have to be paid for it. And in order to get paid for it and well known for your work, like you need to have the credibility behind you. And a lot of that's press and positioning.
So the thing is, what's unique about your business model, Rachael, is we want to automatically, and I'm sure many of our colleagues listening are making some of the assumptions that I made before A, I read through your website, and B, you clarified a little bit when we spoke, is, it's not your traditional PR. You're not a PR firm where we're going to sign up, have a retainer, and all this stuff. So you literally, you said it there. You work with 4 business owners a month. You do one day with the business owner, and that's it. And then basically you are doing like an intensive evaluation of their brand value, their positioning, and then tell us what happens in that.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, I really believe that, and I'm saying PR, and when I say PR, I don't just mean like press. I mean speaking on panels. I mean podcasts. I mean having a licensing line with a tile company. Like anything that increases your brand visibility, I'm considering PR. So I really believe that can be done in-house. And I truly believe, and I tell my clients this all the time, it should only be taking you 1 hour a week. And once again, it's like if you are reaching over and over again through a partnership with luxury real estate agents, your ideal clients, right? Like, let's talk about how lucrative that is. Or once again, like that big feature in Elle Decor, how that allows you to be more selective in who you're working with. So what I do is I'm super selective in who I work with. I work with anyone from like hitting their first 6 figures to making 15 million plus a year. And I always say like the sooner you can figure this out, like the easier your business is going to be for you. So I spend months ahead of time, like doing a massive audit on their brand. We hop on strategy calls. I learn about their big dreams. Maybe they don't want to speak on podcasts. Like that's cool and that's fine. Maybe they have big dreams where they want to have the book deal, or they want to be a well-known influencer. Maybe they don't want to be well-known and they just want to work with their dream clients. So I do a massive audit, and then I'm spending months, really strategizing like what is their business plan for their personal brand to be visible. So I'm prepping like 30 pages of notes, and I mean everything from like a copy and paste pitch template to be sent to Elle Magazine or Elle Decor. I'm talking like if you do want to talk, like I'll write out your signature talk for you. And then when I meet with my client for their 1-day intensive, I'm training her on everything that I prepped and we talked about ahead of time. And in many cases, my clients are bringing their assistant, they're bringing interns, they're zooming in their virtual assistant, because it is something that can be executed really quickly because all of the heavy lifting is done. So the hard work really is in figuring out how to position a personal brand. And the hard work is really figuring out like, what is your special factor in this super oversaturated market? There's a bajillion residential designers in every city, right? So like, why you? And that's the work that we're really trying to figure out.
Okay, so 2 things in there. Number 1, anyone listening doesn't have to know what their why you is first. You help them uncover that if they don't.
Oh my gosh, I'm always working on the why you. Okay. And you would be surprised. I mean, I work with female entrepreneurs, like even beyond the design industry, that are, Silicon Valley backed startups. They're making like great 10, 15 million, and they don't know their why you, right? So it's really hard to figure out your personal brand and how you want to be seen in the marketplace if you're so close to it. Right. I mean, my gosh, like I'm in personal branding and I got my mentors and teams around me to look at my own personal brand. So it's hard. Yeah. So I'd say most people come to me with a kind of sort of understanding of what their why you is. But when they really sit and look at it beyond like I'm creative and hardworking, right? Or I'm dedicated, or I have interesting clients.
Or I like the beaches and the dunes. They inspire me.
Totally. Yeah. It's like, who cares, right? Like, why are they going to hire you over everyone else, and why are they paying a premium? So in many cases, we have to peel the onion, and there's like 15 layers to dig through.
So So what's interesting is when you look at the website and you see the description of this 1 day intensive, first of all, it looks like an absolutely fabulous day for anybody who can do it in COVID in person now. It's just beautiful. It's the lunch, it's the meeting, it's the champagne popping at the end of the day. But it doesn't, it doesn't speak to all of that work that you're putting in ahead of that time. So what happens if somebody wants to engage with you, Rachael? Of course, they have to fill out an application. You're only taking 4 people a month. You're only taking women, right? But so talk to us. It's almost like a designer, planning out their pipeline. So you would say to somebody, if they're accepted, your day is going to be what, 2, 3, 6 months out, because this is all the work that I have to do in ahead of that.
Yeah, exactly. So now with COVID, it's interesting. I've been able to do these virtually, so that allows a little bit more flexibility in scheduling, but I'm booking a few months in advance, just because it's such an extensive intake process. Like I always tell my clients, like, I'm in the business with you, and just being totally transparent. Like my former company where I was working with college women, I was able to exit the market and, do really well with it. So I'm in a position now where the work that I'm doing feels really fun, and it allows me to be really selective. Like I don't have to do it. So I really find myself partnering with women that are also becoming my friends long term. And, I'm able to make introductions for them. I always I'm speaking in, I think it's next weekend. Yeah. Next weekend in March for Harvard Business School, for Women's History Month. And Harvard Business School will book me, once or twice over a few years, but they're not going to book me again next year. So it allows me to make introductions for my clients, and we create this really unique circle where I'm able to refer them to each other for larger partnerships, or they get to know an editor and they'll introduce each other. So it's really fun work.
I love that. And so what does it look like for the commitment for the person that you accept them to your program? Is it weekly meetings in those weeks meeting up to that thing, or you're just doing the research on your own and you're not really getting the input? How does that process work?
Yeah. So there's a massive client intake form. It takes my clients about 2 hours to do, where we're getting nitty gritty, anything from like, I want to hear all of your past podcast episodes, to have you had local press and what does that look like, down to like, what do you view as your own personal definition of success? Sincerely, like I've worked with designers that are like, I've ran my company for 15 years. I'm tired, right? Like I don't want to be on this book tour, speaking tour. I want to be out of the day-to-day, meaning I need to position myself as the go-to because I want to double my rates, right? So it's like, really, like what's the goal here? And then depending on the intake form, we hop on calls, we go back and forth on emails, and go back and forth, get clarity on questions. And then we're hopping on a massive strategy call where I'm proposing to her, here's a schedule for the day. From 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., we're rewriting your bio. From 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., we're going to go through the copy and paste pitch templates that I put together for you. And from 11 to 12, like once you get that Elle Decor, once you get that Arc Digest, once you get, I don't know, right? Like any local living publication, like most importantly, how are we using that as leverage so you can be paid the type of money you should be paid for your work, so you can have inbound leads, so you can fill your pipeline? I think that's something that, many people mistake. They're like, once I get this press feature, like I'm good to go. No,
no, that has to be leveraged.
I think like the easiest way to say this, or how I love to explain it, is like, no one trusts you, right? Like if they don't know you, they don't trust you. Like, and naturally, like they shouldn't.
Right.
But they trust Arc Digest, right? They trust, let's say Atlanta, like Buckhead Living. Like they trust whatever it is. If you're in partnership with Compass or Christie's or Sotheby's, it's like they trust those names because those are reputable stamps of approval that are ideal to that target market. So if we can surround you with these brilliant stamps of approval, then it allows or it becomes easier for your ideal client to say yes to you.
Right.
That's what I'm always telling my clients over and over again. Like the goal with brand positioning is to make it easier for your ideal clients to say yes to you. And some of my clients, like, that are maybe hitting their first 6 figures, or they're kind of in that space, like a lot of times going after an Arc Digest Digest feature or, doing a big podcast tour, like, does not make sense for them. We want to go after small local publications. We want them at the industry trade shows. We want them doing the show homes because that's where their ideal market is hanging out. And if they have stamps of approval that their ideal market views as credible and true, then it puts them in a position where, their client views them as valid and truthful, and they have an easier time doing a stronger conversion.
Right. Makes total sense. It makes total sense. So where it's interesting because when you say that when you one thing might be we're going to redo your website copy, another thing might be we're going to write this or whatever. I gotta believe when you work with a brand like Kathy Quo, a person like Kathy Quo, and already has a brand recognition, it's not that in that weeds, right? It's got to be higher level things because you're not going to she doesn't want templates, right? For pitches, like her team. Is that true? Or you're like, no, her team needs the templates just like everybody else. You know what I'm saying?
So that was an interesting story. And I'm sure she'd be happy that I'm sharing this because she wants to be in a position now where she's seen as a credible expert, not only in the design field. She has done that 20 times over. She's so brilliant, but she now wants to be seen as this leader, this woman in business that ran this incredible or is running this incredible like tech and e-commerce business. So rather than going after Arc Digest and Elle Decor and Veranda, she already has that. We went after Forbes. We went after her speaking at Columbia University, right? So we took a different kind of piece on personal branding for her to be seen in a different industry that's not her own. And yes, that does involve copy and paste pitch templates. That does involve a bio write-up. Like, yes. Absolutely.
Everybody needs it, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So tell me, when you go through the process with someone, Rachael, are there certain things that stick out to you that are, the things that over and over are like maybe the ahas for your clients or the learning lessons from your clients that you just say, see, that's where the magic is. And that's when I get through to them and they understand that, because not everybody is going to be able to work with you, especially because you are very selective and your time is limited. So to give advice or something to somebody that is like, this is exciting, but how am I going to kind of do it on my own a little?
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting pieces that we have a big conversation around is like, what are your money generating activities, right? I see over and over and over again, female entrepreneurs, especially service-based, right? Where they're running a personal branding business, feeling like they need to be everywhere. TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, newsletter, right? Podcasts, like pitching publications. And I'm like, whoa, hold up. What we really need to figure out, number one, is what is your special factor, right? Like, what is your personal brand? How are you different than everyone else in your niche? Number two, who do you want to serve? So let's say, for example, like you really want to serve first-time home buyers, right? Let's just say like you're in that space and you really want to be working on room by room design. You having a massive newsletter with all these big manufacturing partnerships, right? Like you partnering with the Universal means nothing to that market. That is not a stamp of approval that's exciting to them. But what they're reading, right, are those local publications where they're featuring local business owners. They are looking to their realtor to advise them on who to work with. So really thinking like, what are you doing right now that's not bringing you your ideal clients or isn't getting you in front of your ideal clients, and cutting those activities. Give you perfect example. So when I ran my former company, the Brand Girls, we had a massive newsletter, right? We were trying to reach women at all universities across the United States. We had a big ambassador program. We had a big following on social media. We used Instagram ads. That's where our ideal client was hanging out, and they viewed a large social media following as credible and true, the stamp of approval. The work that I do now, like I don't put any effort, literally like zero, on social media, because I know for a fact that, my ideal clients aren't looking at my social media saying, dang, I need to learn about this space and work with her. But so that's not money generating. So I spend no effort on that. But my money generating activities are speaking at my ideal conferences and connecting and teaching. So like going to a design influencers conference and educating like in the room with hundreds of interior designers is a lot more lucrative for me. So my money generating activity is like I spend an hour a week reaching out to like ideal groups. And that's probably why my team puts you on the list, because your market is my market.
Right.
So it allows me to easily say yes or no if someone wants me to be on their blog. And I come to find out that the blog is for entrepreneurs and there's no specific niche. It's men, it's women, it's people that have, a product and they have massive overhead. Like, nope. That's not an activity that makes sense for me to do. So I really work with my clients to figure out like, who do they really want to serve? Right? Who is that ideal target market? Like, what is that brand avatar? In many ways, we're like identifying the woman. So like, for example, like your dream client might be named Fiona and she has, you know what I mean? Like she makes $700,000 a year and her husband does really well. And they're both, C-suite execs. I'm making this up. Right. And you're out in Dallas and they have a few kids and they have worked with professional designers in the past. Like we will literally come up with a persona of the ideal client and then we'll talk together and be like, what does Fiona view as credible and true? You being in D magazine makes sense. You partnering with a massive Dallas like lifestyle blogger that she follows totally makes sense, right? But you having this massive newsletter where you're getting tips and tricks doesn't make sense because she's probably not using that as something credible and true. You being at all the posh industry events and show homes and working with Kips Bay, she's already going there. Yeah, that makes sense for you. So we really identified like who's the ideal target market and then what activities make sense for my client to do. And then I work through building out like how is she going to actually do these activities. In many ways, a lot of my work is saving clients a ton of time, energy, money, right? Like resources. And then it's making them a lot more money in a lot of ways.
That's interesting. And so the thing about that is when have you ever had a conversation or a client where either they came to you knowing who what their special sauce was, right? Or they didn't. But once, like, I'm curious about, okay, here's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. When we identify Fiona, who makes $700K and her husband makes another $700K and they have two kids and they live in Dallas, I get that. It makes total sense to be at Kips Bay and the show houses, the charitable events. It makes total sense to be in the Dallas Home Lifestyle magazine. But have you had situations where it was more difficult to figure out where they should be? And an example of something like that, because I love to have my mind blown with stuff like that. When somebody super smart like you goes and says, oh, and this is where we put them. It's like, oh, yeah. Like, anything like that, like somebody who had a different niche and you figured, like I'm saying, what if I I like to do high-rise penthouse apartments in cities for bachelors. And I love them when they're gut renos, like it's down to the studs and there's no budget. Like, where am I meeting that guy? So that guy could be.
I love that. Right? You're working with the luxury matchmakers who you're working with.
Right. So
sincerely though, like I would, if that was my client, right? And she was like, where do I find all of these, I'm putting in quotes, like really easy clients, right? The bachelor that has excess funds. They're looking at me to tell me exactly what to do. Where do I find them? Like really, like that's the question. Where do we find Tom? I'm just making that up, right? Tom is probably hanging out with a luxury matchmaker. Tom is probably hanging out with a stylist like that, that works with the stars. Tom is probably hanging out with, a personal trainer that's super elite. Tom does not have time to do things himself. And that's the theme. He outsources. So the question is, number one, how do you get your personal brand ready? Right? Like your bio, your website, your story to say, like, I am an expert at supporting bachelors that are super busy. They're running multiple businesses. They want to feel cool. They want to feel at home in their space, but they don't have the time. They don't have the energy to manage the project themselves. I'm the go-to person for that.
Mm.
And then how do you get yourself ready to start working with the luxury matchmakers or the stylists for them to view you as credible and true so they can introduce you to the client? So what would that mean? That'd probably mean that you're featured in Vogue. That would probably mean, because guess what? The luxury matchmaker, the stylist, like they're not familiar with, I don't know, Buckhead living. I'm just using that as
Right, right.
right? Like that's not something that's exciting to them. So the question is like, how do you position yourself to be ideal for your partners as well?
So that's that little nuance right there. That's exactly the nuance I was talking about. It's something that when you say it, it is so darn logical, but the connection I might not have ever heard in my own head before. So it's not so much where what's
all
that?
the time. I hear that from clients all the time. They're like, duh, right? But it's so hard. It's so hard to figure out the positioning. And then also, secondly, like, how do you get in front of the right people? That's the other part.
Yeah.
And you can have, your dream partners or your dream stages or podcasts all day, every day. But like, if you don't have your brand ready, they're not going to say yes to you. Like similar to like you saying yes to working with me, right? Like if I hadn't worked with those clients or spoken to design influencers or had all the press behind me, you probably wouldn't have said yes for me to speak. So it's the same way with anyone in the service-based industry, right, or anyone that has a personal brand.
It's true. And I think what it is we've talked often about our ideal client and where are they hanging out. But that next layer is, where are the people that have the ear of that ideal client hanging out?
Mm-hmm.
And when you say the matchmaker, the personal trainer, the stylist, that's like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because, we all know that we have our trusted people that either work for us directly or are our contractors, our outsourcing people.
Mm-hmm.
And you just, everyone listening right now, just give a thought. Like, how many times has somebody that's in your circle come up to you and said, oh, I found the greatest resource for you. I was reading a magazine. I was going here. I was doing that. And this is somebody that you should call about what? I don't even care if it's calling about you get your roof fixed, right? Like, your secretary can say to you, like, I got a great roofer. Like,
exactly.
Right. So,
and then it's like, what are you giving them is the other question. Actually, really fun idea that I want to share that, I've been exploring with some of my luxury interior design clients in the realtor space is really like, that is your ideal partner, is someone that is buying or is a realtor, right? That works with people that are buying homes. They want to gut them or they want to do a whole entire like project on it and they have endless funds. Let's just say that's your ideal client. Like partnering with the luxury realtors that are literally on the ground helping them show homes is ideal. But the question is like, how do you partner with them? Like, what do you offer? They're meeting those luxury, realtors, like they're meeting designers all the time. They have friends that are designers. So what makes you different and special is the question. And something that I was toying with a client, we were exploring this idea was like, what if you offered when a client is unsure of a space and, they fit your criteria, whatever that looks like for you. Maybe it's a $4 million plus home. Maybe it's 500. I'm just making this up. That they fit your criteria. They've been vetted. They're on the fence about a home. Maybe the realtor calls you, brings you in, and you do a 30-minute walkthrough with them and you point out different ideas and you give them a vision, knock down this wall, do this, blah, blah, blah. And they end up purchasing the home and of course, naturally, you have that rapport with them. You become the go-to designer, right? So
yes.
It's like, once again, it's like but why would the realtor want to work with you over someone else? Because you make them look really good, right? You help get that money in their pocket for their commission to sell the home.
Yes.
So
and
I don't
know
so many different ways to do that. Yeah.
And I don't know that if you take your advice to this level, but what I just heard in my head is, okay, so how do I meet the luxury realtor and get them to take me seriously? And I don't know, is that part of what you do if that would be a suggestion, or do you say, I'm sorry, I can't do all the lifting for you?
Oh my gosh. No. Yeah, I absolutely help them do that. Before we even get to talking about the realtor, I'm like, how are we getting you ready for a realtor? Like, what does the realtor view as credible and true? It might be that, I don't know, like you were in modern luxury, let's just say, or you partnered with X, Y, and Z lines in the past, or you have spoken at their industry conferences for, you've spoken at the round table at Christie's for their lunch and learn. I'm just making that up.
Right.
So it's like, how do we get you ready for them to say yes to you?
Okay. That's exciting stuff. That's exciting
Mhm.
stuff.
It's
Okay.
really fun. There's a lot of psychology involved in positioning.
Mm. And then what do you find is so one of the things that makes me pretty crazy, and I really get very sad when anyone buys a program, a service, or whatever, and now it's left for them to execute it and they don't. And so
Mhm.
typical PR is, you pay a retainer and you have a meeting once or twice a month and you review what they should be, what pitches and what places and what you have to do to get ready. But then the PR rep goes and does the work. Here you're teaching us and our staff to do the work. So
Mhm.
what do you find that just like almost every other sector that some people pay for the service and then never execute? I mean, or do you have, once we get to that meeting with you, are we done or is
Mhm.
there accountability afterwards or what is that like?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so a few things. Number one, they get 5 hours of my assistant's time to execute within a month of their day. So we like
Oh,
get the ball rolling right away. And I know that's important to them. Like obviously they're super busy. Number two, once again, I mean, we have a wrap-up call a month after and then 2 months after. But once again, because I'm very selective in who I work with, we naturally become friends. Like one of my clients 2 days ago just had a feature on the Today Show. And, I sent her a beautiful press piece in the mail that it's framed, it's going to go on our wall. So my clients, I always say this, my clients never hire me again because they have all the work, but they always refer me. So it allows me to have this really unique partnership and friendship where we're DMing each other on Instagram and they're really held accountable. And I'm being selective in who I'm working with, that they understand like what brand positioning and putting the time around it for their business can do for their wallet. So their team is trained to do it, and then naturally I'm on their team, from our day to the future.
that's exciting. Because you know what I'm talking about,
Oh my
right?
gosh, I know
Yes.
exactly what you're talking about. And who I like to work with is someone that's like, I understand that, like, well, first of all, I price myself at $5,000 a day. And it's not just that day, it's the whole entire lead up. It's, 30 pages of notes. It's like me in the ground with a woman in her business. And I do this because it's so fun for me. I know I can price myself at 10,000, 15, but like, I like working with a woman that's like trying to hit her six figures and she can't afford, $15,000 a day. And I like working with a woman that, has $15 million in sales. And I'm not going to price myself differently. It's the same amount of effort and research on my end. So number one, a PR agent's going to charge you, I mean, depending on your contract, anywhere from, four to $7,000 a month to be doing your outreach for your brand.
Right.
And my thought is like, I'm giving you the whole entire blueprint, right? Like I'm literally on your team. I'm making personal introductions for you. Like here's the game plan. Here's 5 hours of my assistant's time. Like I'm training your team. Like I'm literally telling them exactly step by step what to do. And it's $5,000 and now you get to go execute it indefinitely. So that's really was my thought in terms of pricing.
It's interesting. And it's funny because I know that you just clarified in there $5,000 a day, but it's really not a day because they do all the lead up, and it's true. You really it is not 5,000 for the day, and I
Mm-mm.
have to say I do think it sounds like it's not priced high enough, but I'm glad that it's not.
Yeah, I know. I
No,
know. I
to
do it
your
all the
point, you're
time,
going to
but
be
like,
selective anyway of who
yeah.
you do, and this way the women out there that are on their way up can take advantage of it. You don't have to wait till you've arrived and you've got the big bank account.
I
And
love working with the rising stars too. And to
mm,
be honest, like I do tons of philanthropy work. Like I just wrote a children's book. Like I have a lot of other creative projects and all of the work that I do feels really fun to me. And I don't want to price myself at a place where like a new rising star doesn't have the opportunity.
that's
Because I
exciting.
know, positioning myself like really early on in my first business, like I was, with the college women, I was pricing myself at like $200 for like 3 hours of work. And I had something really interesting and exciting, but it wasn't until I got my Teen Vogue feature, right? That I was able to explode the business and hire different coaches and run ambassador programs because I had exciting work, but people didn't view me as credible or
Mm.
authoritative. So I understand that. And that's who I really like working with is someone that's like loves the work that they're doing. They're brilliant at their craft, but they just need the positioning work.
Love it. I love it. And what is that like? What, just curiosity, what was the branding need for the college students? Is it just so
Mhm.
that they would have some confidence and figure out how to walk in and try and get the job that they want? Like, what was that need there? That's lost
Yeah,
on
yeah,
me.
yeah. Massive need. So the need was professional confidence.
Yes.
No
Okay.
clear understanding of who they were, sincerely, right? Like who they were, what they wanted to do with their life. I saw over and over again women with massive big dreams. They're like, I want to work at Vogue. I want to work at New York Design Center, right? Like I want to work for Gucci. And then summer comes around, it's internship season, and they're like, well, maybe next year.
Yes.
Right. And
Yes.
the interesting disconnect for me was like, they're qualified, but they're not qualified and hired. And the disconnect is personal branding. They haven't positioned themselves correctly. And that's the same exact idea. And this theme that I'm like so passionate about is like the women that I work with, they're so brilliant at their craft and their work, but maybe they're not working with their dream clients consistently. Maybe they are not having enough inbound leads. Maybe they are not getting that Rizzoli book deal that they want. And what's the issue? What's the disconnect? It definitely has to do with their branding.
So good. Now, just in case, I mean, is it, of course, you see, there's a whole lot between the rising designer who's approaching their first 100K in revenue, like personal revenue, not gross revenue, right? And
Mhm.
then the Kathy Quos of the world. So
Mhm.
is this service not for, say, the 20-year veteran interior designer that is relevant, is doing luxury design, and has a pretty much a handle on their brand, but maybe doesn't have this toolkit that you discuss, and the relationships and that little extra nudge of secret sauce of insight on how to bust it up? Is it it's one or the other, or it's
No,
everybody in between?
yeah, it's everywhere, everybody in between. I would say it's really, really personalized work. So I'm really sitting down, and I think we were chatting about this earlier, but it's like, what's your definition of success? And like, I
Mm.
do work with 20-year veterans that are like, I want out of the day to day, right? Like, I literally am exhausted. Get me off a project, right? Like, I do not want to go to a building site anymore. Um, how can I now get that licensing deal? Or how can I, get more leads and dream clients for my team? Like, I now understand that it's my job. I've been in this for a long time as CEO where I should be doing magazine interviews. Like, how do I do that? So it really honestly just depends. And I think that's what makes the work so fun, because every single personal brand and every single story is really unique. And there's so much psychology involved in the positioning.
So interesting. I love it. Do you ever have anybody say to you, I find it hard to believe they would, because you're very passionate and you come across as, let's use the word again, credible, right? But
Mm.
do you have anybody that ever says to you, how do I know it will work for me? How do I know that, and you'll do 30 pages of notes and actually what you say will work for me? What, maybe I will do all the pitches and I won't get the magazine feature or the speaking engagement. What how do you answer that fear?
Yeah. Well, I think number one, it's like you have to put in the work and the time, right?
Hmm.
Like we can build your personal brand all day, every day. And I think that the most important thing to make note of is like, it doesn't matter how big you are. Like, if you want your ideal opportunities, like you have to pitch yourself for them. Like, it doesn't matter how many stages that I've spoken on. If there's a new stage I want to speak on, I am sending a pitch email. So I would say number one, like the time, the understanding, like this is now part of like a money generating routine and activity you need to be doing on a daily basis is like the first thing I make note of. But honestly, the women coming to me, like they understand the value in that, and that's not necessarily a question.
Okay. And so, and I just heard something in there. You said it once earlier. So you said it's like something they could do an hour a day or an hour a week.
An hour a week.
Okay,
Yep.
and that's the thing right there. It's like we learn all the things that we can from you, and if we're going to make it happen, we have to commit to that hour a week of doing the religious, whatever it is that you taught the
And
individual
it
person to do.
depends what it is. For the client. It might be speaking at, I don't know, right? Like,
Right.
or going to different show homes and applying for them because that's where your dream client is hanging out. It might be, co-hosting events with different manufacturers if your goal is to become more of an influencer in the space. Like,
Mhm.
it depends on what the goal is for the specific client, but like we need an hour a week. And in many cases, it doesn't need to be you. It can be your assistant, it can be your intern, because we did the heavy lifting. In many cases, it's a copy and paste, it's setting up phone calls, you have the script.
Okay. Okay. So that is part of it. The commitment is to keep going yourself individually and keep up the work every week in doing that. Or
Yeah, and I
otherwise
think
don't come
the
back and say
most
it didn't work.
yeah, exactly. And I think that the most important note that I want to make is like what's really incredible is like that 1 hour of a week of that brand positioning is oftentimes, making an extra 30% in sales. Like, think about it. If you are partnering with and you're spending 1 hour a week working with like five luxury interior designers within, I don't know, an hour of your area, and three or four of them bring you a client in the next 6 months, and those are mega projects, like, yeah, that hour a week made sense for you. Right?
Yes. Well, there's a lot of activities that we can look at it
Cut.
in that regard.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
No, I was going to go the other way, that if we don't do them because we think, well, it's only one more pitch, it's not worth it. There's only one, it's oh, what's that? It's going to take me the time. It doesn't matter. I have one of my clients that has consistently from I've been working with her off and on for 2 years, and from the time I've known her, she's always, and I shouldn't say this, from the time I know her, she told me how she had always, for several years before that, and continues it. She has a set amount of time every month that she writes personal notes to different people within the industry, out of the
I love
industry,
that.
right? That
Yeah,
might be
I do
able
that
to do
too.
something for her, or connect her
Mhm.
to somebody, asking if they can get coffee and stuff. And we did an evaluation of her business, I guess about 8 or 9 months ago, and she had on the books at that point, I think, 10 projects. And when we traced back where each one of them came from, 8 of the 10 had
Mhm.
come from this 5 or 6 year habit
Mhm.
of doing the weekly reach out.
Totally.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, that's one of my, so I have three really solid money generating activities. Like, number one, it's speaking to my ideal audience. Like, sometimes I don't care if it's not 5,000 people. Like, I used to be speaking on those stages. Like, I would much rather be 15 and I work with 10 out of the 15. Like, that's a nice lucrative hour. Right.
Right.
And then another one is networking with my partners or reconnecting with my partners. I have industry people that I know that work with my types of clients all day, every day, and maybe they're on the operations end supporting them. And whenever they need branding, they always refer me, right? And then my
Mm.
third one is staying in touch with my clients. Like, once again, my clients like never hire me again because we do all of the work, but they always refer me. So like, I literally have a gifting map where I am touching base with my clients every 3 months with a little note or a gift in the mail, or we're connecting for coffee. Like, these women become my friends, and like, that is a big piece of my strategy and also how I operate my business. But
Mm.
I'm really clear, like, those are my three MGAs, like money generating activities. So like, I'm not co-writing a blog on a random blog site, even if it has a bajillion views, because that's probably not going to bring me my ideal client.
I love it. And do you do the same? Do you, when you work with your clients, you identify, like, say, the
You
top
got
three
it.
money
Yeah,
generating
I'm like
activities?
a
Yeah.
nut. I'm like, here's your three MGAs. I love this strategy. Like, it gets me going. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wish you liked what you did, Rachel. It's just, it's a little boring listen to you, frankly.
Yeah. You're sweet. It's a lot of fun. And the women I work with are so smart and incredible at their craft. So it's
Uh,
a lot of fun to support them.
well, you're very inspiring. I can imagine that the person working with you leaves each conversation, each meeting feeling like, okay, I can do this. I got
I
this.
appreciate that. Yeah. I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is there anything that you can think of that I didn't ask you about that you're like, no, 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 we have to tell them this? I mean, three MGAs. I like that. We can all give some
Yeah,
thoughts to
get
ourselves about
clear,
that,
and then
right?
yeah, with that, cut out the rest that doesn't make sense
Mm.
for you. Like, once again, like, if you follow me on Instagram, you're gonna see pictures of my dog, like, and my coffee. Like, that's what I'm posting. That's not a lucrative activity for me to do, so I don't do it. So get yourself off things. Like, look at your past data. If it's not generating cash and it's not getting you in front of your ideal clients, then like, cut it from your list, right? Like, we
Mm.
should have beautiful, well balanced lives. And in order to do that, we have to get clear on what the end goal is. So I would say cut some things. I think you asked me everything, though. I've really enjoyed this convo. I would say, if anyone feels that I'm the right fit for you, I am booking out, but I start my conversations early to really make sure that it feels like a partnership on both ends. I love getting in, my women that I coach is corner. So I would say apply to work with me. Lux days are the only ways that I coach because that's, how I work best. So I would say visit my website, fill in an application, and we can chat next steps. I do have a freebie download on the site of 15 thought leadership opportunities, which just outlines some maybe unique ideas that you haven't thought of before. So feel free to download that as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And we will put in the show notes the website and all of the things. Rachael,
Right.
you are, I said at the beginning, you're a firecracker. It's like, I feel like I
Appreciate
just had to hit a speed. It's like, wow.
Well, I feel like we've been in the same circle for so long, and I'm glad that we had this time to connect. I've been hearing your name for a while now, so
Oh,
this was
thank
fun,
you.
and I'm looking forward to continuing to partner.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rachael.
Thank you.
All right. So, I mean, Rachel makes it sound pretty easy, right? Pretty easy peasy, right? Just figure out what your special factor is and just start executing on those money generating activities, right? Well, we know that we have spoken many times about doing the work to determine your differentiator and then to incorporate that message into your marketing and your conversations. Your special factor, it is that foundation that you build your brand on. It's your edge. It's the hook that helps people to instantly know, I want to work with that person, right? That's the thing we want to have happen when people meet us, right? But when you sit down to actually think through what your competitive advantage is, the reason someone would choose you, the one thing that only you can bring to the table, it can be daunting. I mean, I know this to be true. And we also know that any one of us could probably help someone else pinpoint their special factor much quicker than we could do it for ourselves. All right. The thing is, figuring it out for yourself is the tough part. It's not impossible, though, and Rachael has shared some tips for how we can start brainstorming about our individual special factor. But first, why do we care about finding out our special factor? Because as Rachael says, people don't trust you, and they shouldn't. You need credibility in order to get paid. And press is a way to gain credibility, to build trust, and to justify your rates, right? Now, My Doma Studio is one of those companies that you can trust. They built their business around making you look good to your client, from client and vendor communications to mood board and package creation to getting your invoices paid. My Doma Studio is the best place for you to easily manage your projects efficiently and professionally. Go to mydomastudio.com/a well-designed business. All right, now, once you've found your special factor, I'm sorry to say, but your work has only just begun because now it's time for you to use it to leverage your wow factor to get press and create credibility so that people will trust you and you will get more of the projects and the clients that you want. This is where Rachael takes your special factor concept and starts typing. She reworks your bio, creates your press pitch templates, and determines your 3 money generating activities, right? She calls them your MGAs. It's a new little word in my vocabulary since meeting Rachael, I have to tell you. MGAs. I laid it on the VinMan last week. I'm not sure that's one of my MGAs, I told him. But just as important, she tells you what you can cut, the marketing, the relationships, the building activities that aren't getting you closer to achieving the business that you want. Now, to get your juices flowing about discovering your own MGAs, here's what Rachael has determined are her MGAs: speaking to her ideal audience, networking with her partners, staying in touch with her clients. So, if you follow Rachael's method, at this point, you've got the positioning, the tools to execute the plan, and a focused list of activities. Rachael recommends dedicating 1 hour a week to these money-generating activities. Your activities will be focused around your established MGAs and getting you closer to building trust with your ideal client. This may include pitching to brands or to people that are your ideal client, that your ideal client respects, right? The places that they go and they place their trust in, right? It may be hosting an event, planning a speaking engagement, applying for awards, or simply grabbing coffee with a strategically chosen individual. I am so happy that Rachael came on the show today to share her expertise. And I'm so thankful for this community that's out here helping each other get to where we all want to go. You guys are amazing, I have to say. And I told you I would dig up Kathy Kuo's episode. Kathy and I had a really good conversation also. That was way back, episode 190. All right. So I hope that you will take advantage and you will sit and think with some of Rachael's thoughts and ideas. And I just going to go back to that MGA again. It is something that needs saying, enforcing, and just kind of always checking yourself. Am I spending time in the places in my business that are like you know what Amber De La Garza calls our highest value buckets, right? Are the things that really are the places that make a difference in our business. So, this conversation sort of piggybacks with Amber's, vision and the way that she talks. So if you've got the book, you've got her chapter, and you can go and get some more insights there. I have to say, as the years go by, this whole thing just keeps wrapping around. And you know what that says? That a well-designed business is run on certain tenets, certain principles. And, you take a little of this one, take a little of that one, hear it once, hear it twice, hear it for the 6th or 7th time. And it's okay that you implement them as you're able to implement them. Okay, so I wish you luck with having a little chat with yourself about what your superpower is and also getting clear on your MGAs. All right, thank you tons for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And I hope that you decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at LuAnnNigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.